Okay, I've been trying to decide whether I was going to make this video or not, but I've watched a lot on this topic. I've read a lot on this topic. And when it comes to Marathon, I have some pretty strong opinions about it. I spent somewhere around 140 hours in the closed alpha, which is like a serious touch grass moment because that honestly probably puts me in like the top 10 people. And by the end of the alpha, some of the queue times were longer than 15 minutes to the point where the game would kick you out because the game works on like a level-based matchmaking system. And so it couldn't find like anyone to queue us against. I'm not going to ramble on too much about that. My point is, I played the closed alpha and I was actually excited for the game. Like maybe one of the few people that was. And so when I then saw a week later that some art had been stolen, I was like, dude, we can't be having this right now because the Destiny community already like kind of hates this game. Some people are saying that like before the art stuff that people were saying some positive stuff. No, the game was already getting dogged on. Like, let's not forget about that part. You can look at any video from like any influencer talking about Marathon before the art thing happened, and you can see like just a ridiculous amount of negative comments about the game. It's stuff like that I'm trying to touch on. But first I'm just going to like try to put things in some sort of chronological order, because some people come to this situation late and they like don't know all the things that kind of led up to this. And so let's just take it from the top. So Marathon actually started back in 1994. The original games, that is. It was made by Bungie. It was made for the Macintosh. And the quickest way to describe those games would kind of just be like a first-person shooter that closely resembles the old Doom games in a lot of ways. But it has a surprisingly deep story. Like, story that even upholds to some of today's standards. It really is remarkable for the time. And it actually keeps a fairly active community because of this. But this is also where I'm going to bring up my first major point. The original Marathon games were campaign, in the same sense that Halo or even Destiny are. And the new Marathon is an extraction shooter. So the new Marathon game is not a reboot of the original games. It's actually just a reboot of the IP. I don't think this is a major problem, and here's my reason why. The original Marathon community was mostly there because of the storytelling side of it, and so a new Marathon game is a way to expand on that storytelling, even if it doesn't give the same gameplay that the original games offered. But that doesn't seem to be the most significant part anyways. From there, we are going to skip all the way to 2017. And for those who don't remember, this is when Destiny 2 released. This is when Fortnite was at its greatest. And Destiny 2 did not have the best of launches, to the point where, and this is confirmed by Bungie themselves, the first major DLC of Destiny 2 had to be a hit because all the graphs of the Destiny 2 player count were literally showing that if it wasn't a hit, the player count would basically drop to 0. I also mentioned this year because 2017, 2018 is when the new Marathon title started its early development phases. Now let's talk about 2023, where it is learned that Bungie is working on these side projects, and keep in mind, Marathon is not the only one. Instead, Marathon is the only one that survives because the other projects get scrapped. This is also the year that Destiny gets another chance to get the spotlight, in large part due to the success of the previous year's expansion, Witch Queen, and their major DLC, Lightfall, fails pretty drastically. The best way I could describe this is kind of like the X-Men movies, where in my opinion, the X-Men movies were bad and then good and then bad and then good. And so what happened was people would go to the bad movies because it was the year after the good one, but no one would go to the good ones. And this kind of happened to Destiny, so that sucks. You'll notice that I'm talking about Destiny a lot, and that's in part because I think it is incredibly surprising that with all these new Marathon videos of drama and whatnot, that the titles and thumbnails of the video seem to be focusing on Marathon, where the actual content of the video is actually focusing on Bungie. And I think that that's where the focus should be, because I don't think that you should necessarily pin the blame on Marathon. I think the blame should be pinned on Bungie, because it's not just the Marathon team that's guilty of this. Destiny has stolen art too. It's clearly a Bungie problem. And at this point, I don't know what can be done to fix it, because I don't know where the problem lies. Some people claim it's with the devs, some people claim it's with the leadership. In the past, it's been claimed that it was because Activision owned them, and now they've been working independently for years, and they might get acquired by Sony, and some people are saying that that's going to be a good thing. I am now going to talk about how things played out in the last month. So the first thing that happened was that there was an online ARG related to Marathon, and public reception for this was actually very good. There was a few small things that were critiqued about Bungie, mostly communication, but overall quality and delivery were both done very well. The end of this online ARG puzzle leads to us figuring out that there will be a gameplay reveal in about a week. And when the gameplay reveal does happen, there's a bunch of people watching, stuff seems to be going somewhat well, and then all of a sudden, after the stream, no one is talking about it. There was a ton of streamers watching the reveal, and then just nothing, like radio silence. It's also worth noting at this point that there is an upcoming closed alpha within about a week, but that there will be an NDA for it. And this NDA actually gets lifted a little later, a few days before the alpha actually happens. Now let's talk about the actual reception to the alpha. The people who play the alpha mostly give like mediocre responses. Like they like the gameplay, but they're not sure if they could see them playing it. They're not sure what the grind is. They're just not sure if it's for them, but they overall actually do kind of like the design of it. Instead, it is public reception where it tanks the hardest. And it could be that this is in part fueled by the limited access to the alpha. Some of the people who wanted to play the games just could not do it. And then to add more fuel to the fire, partway through the alpha, Arc Raiders, which is a different extraction shooter that has been in the work for a little while now, launches its second public playtest. And the reception to Arc Raiders could not have been like any better. People loved it, from the design to the gameplay to the idea to the aesthetic. It was very positive. And to add more nails to the coffin, a little after the alpha closes, it is found that there are assets within Marathon that have been stolen. And don't get me wrong, Marathon actually has a ton of decals, ton of texture sheets, but some of the stolen texture sheets were actually used for some pretty major things. The most obvious one to me being the grid pattern, which is used within a lot of marketing for Marathon. And this is probably the part of Marathon that you've heard the most about, and so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I am instead going to talk about the next nail in the coffin that I really hope doesn't hit, but I really think could hit. And that's the fact that Destiny 2 has been in a really rough spot this last year. This is largely because Final Shape is now over. And so not only can Bungie not count on Marathon right now, but they also cannot count on Destiny. Now, I can possibly be proven wrong here, because Final Shape was actually a very well-received expansion, but I don't think it's going to be well enough to bring in more people than it's going to lose. And people can talk about a Destiny 3 all they want, but the reality is that there's no way a Destiny 3 is in development right now. Maybe it was the right decision for Bungie, but it's not the one they made. And I could probably make 15 different videos about all of the different problems going on in Destiny 2. And so here's what I want from Bungie. I want something that shows me that serious changes are being made, because if nothing changes at Bungie, then I genuinely don't know how this community is going to manage. That is all I'm going to say for now. And also, just a recommendation to people who have been keeping up with all this: take a break every now and then. It is a lot. And for those who enjoyed the video, press a button or two, always helps out. And thanks everyone. Take it easy. Goodbye.